Captain Kim Tae-hyun stood on the bridge of the HSS Resilience, looking out at the vast emptiness of space. Earth's small fleet of ships hovered in formation behind him. They had been waiting for this moment for years. "Captain, sensors picking up multiple objects entering our system," said Lieutenant Park Ju, her eyes fixed on her screen. "How many?" asked Tae-hyun, his voice calm despite the tension in his shoulders. "At least 20 ships, sir. Massive ones. Nothing like we've ever seen before." The bridge fell silent as the first Imperial vessels came into view. They were enormous, each one at least 5 times the size of Earth's largest ship. Their hulls looked like polished crystal, catching the distant sun's light and breaking it into countless colors. "They make our ships look like toys," whispered Officer Han, staring at the view screen. Tae-hyun nodded, but kept his face neutral. "Remember your training. This is exactly what we expected." The Imperial fleet moved with perfect precision, arranging themselves in a geometric pattern that seemed both beautiful and threatening at the same time. Their movements were so coordinated, they appeared to be controlled by a single mind. "They're scanning us, Captain," reported Jiu. "Very thorough scans." "Let them look," Tae-hyun said with a small smile. "Communications, open all channels. Let's be neighborly." A few minutes passed before Jiu spoke again. "Captain, they're hailing us." Tae-hyun straightened his uniform and nodded. On screen, the view screen changed to show a creature unlike anything the crew had seen before. It had a reptilian face covered in iridescent scales that shifted colors with each slight movement. Its eyes were large and yellow with vertical pupils, and when it opened its mouth, they could see rows of small, sharp teeth behind mandibles that clicked together. "I am High Ambassador Velix of the Galactic Empire," the creature said, its voice translated by Earth's computers into something they could understand. "We welcome Earth to the galactic community." Tae-hyun bowed his head slightly. "Ambassador Velix, I am Captain Kim Tae-hyun of Earth Space Force. We appreciate your welcome." Velix's eyes narrowed, and its head tilted to one side. "Our preliminary scans of your vessels are interesting. Your technology appears quite quaint." Behind Velix, the crew could see other aliens moving around what seemed to be the bridge of their ship. Some looked similar to Velix, while others had completely different forms. All seemed to be working with perfect efficiency. "The Galactic Empire has existed for 15,000 years, Velix continued. "We have brought peace and order to over 37 species across this galaxy. The Empire offers protection and guidance to developing species like yours." The alien's mandibles clicked rapidly. "You need only acknowledge Imperial sovereignty." Tae-hyun's expression didn't change, though he understood the threat beneath the words. The Empire wasn't offering partnership. They were demanding submission. At Earth Command, Admiral Lee Hyun-ju and General Kang Dong-yun watched the same transmission. Unlike many of the junior officers around them who looked worried, they exchanged knowing glances. "Just as intelligence predicted," Dong-yun whispered. Hyun-ju nodded slightly. "Perfect." Back on the Resilience, Tae-hyun responded carefully. "Ambassador, you honor us with your offer. As you might understand, this is a significant decision for our world. We'll need time to consider and consult with our leaders." Velix's scales darkened slightly. "Of course. The Empire is patient, to a point. You have 3 Earth days to provide your answer." Its voice became colder. "Choose wisely, Captain. The benefits of Imperial protection are considerable. The alternatives, less so." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the bridge in silence. "Well, that wasn't very subtle," said Lieutenant Jiu. "They don't think they need to be subtle," Tae-hyun replied. "From their perspective, we're primitive and no threat." He turned to his communications officer. "Secure channel to Earth Command, please." Admiral Hanju's face appeared on screen moments later. "Report, Captain." "Admiral, they took the bait completely. Their scans only detected what we wanted them to see. They think our ships are primitive. Were you able to get readings on their technology while they scanned us? Yes, Admiral. Their ships use crystalline computing systems, exactly as our scientists theorized. Every ship in their fleet operates on synchronized patterns. It's impressive but predictable. Hyunju allowed herself a small smile. Perfect. Did they give you the standard Empire ultimatum? 3 days to submit or else. Very diplomatic, of course. Of course. Hyunju exchanged looks with General Dongyun before continuing. Captain, launch Phase 2. Deploy the probe drones while they're watching us. Make them look like standard observation equipment. And the hidden fleet, Admiral. Keep them powered down behind Luna for now. The Empire doesn't know about our quantum uncertainty drives yet. Let's keep it that way until the right moment. Taeyun nodded. Understood, Admiral. What about their ultimatum? We'll send a diplomatic team to negotiate tomorrow. Their job is to look scared and buy time while seeming cooperative. Meanwhile, activate all defense systems Earthside, but make them visible to Imperial scans. Let them think we're scrambling. After the transmission ended, Taehyun turned to his crew. You heard the Admiral. Let's give our new friends a show they'll believe. As the human ships deployed simple-looking probes that the Empire would easily detect, deeper sensors hidden within them were mapping every detail of the Imperial fleet. Behind Earth's moon, 30 advanced ships waited in powered-down mode, invisible to Imperial scans. On the main Imperial vessel, Ambassador Velex reported to the Imperial command. As expected, another primitive species. Their technology is at least 5 centuries behind ours. They'll submit or be easily conquered. The Imperial commander nodded. Standard procedure, then. Prepare the subjugation fleet. Neither of them noticed the small, seemingly harmless probe that had attached itself to their hull, transmitting everything back to human ships. In her office, Admiral Hyunju reviewed the incoming data with satisfaction. And now, she whispered, we wait for them to make their first mistake. Commander Drax stood on the bridge of the Imperial flagship, the Eternal Glory. His yellow eyes narrowed as he studied the detailed scans of the human ships. The Empire had collected massive amounts of data during their first contact with Earth. Now it was time to analyze their new potential subjects. These humans are more primitive than we thought, Drax said, his scaled finger tracing the outline of the Earth vessel on the holographic display. Look at these designs. So crude. Grand Admiral Malvis approached, his tall frame towering over the other officers. Unlike Drax's bright scales, Malvis had dark purple skin with gold patterns that marked his high rank. Show me what you found, Malvis ordered. Drax expanded the hologram, revealing the inner workings of the human ships. Their propulsion systems are incredibly inefficient, burning chemical fuels for basic maneuvers. Their weapons are rudimentary, mostly projectiles and simple energy beams. No quantum shielding whatsoever. He pointed to the hull structure. Most surprising, they still use physical connections rather than molecular bonding to hold their ships together. How strange, said Malvis, leaning closer to examine the details. They reached the stars with such technology. A fluke, likely, Drax replied with a dismissive wave. Perhaps they stumbled upon the basics of faster-than-light travel by accident. It happens sometimes with lesser species. Malvis walked around the hologram, studying it from all angles. And their defenses. Minimal. Their planet has a scattered network of ground-based weapons. Their orbital platforms are few and would fall quickly under organized attack. Drax looked up at his superior. They'll make excellent servants once properly subdued. Their planet has abundant resources, and their physical form suggests they would be suitable for various labor tasks. Malvis nodded slowly. Prepare a subjugation plan. Nothing too extensive. A small force should be sufficient. We don't want to waste resources. Already done, Grand Admiral. I recommend a force of 8 battlecruisers and support vessels. More than enough to handle their entire fleet. Drax displayed the battle plan, showing Imperial ships in perfect formation descending on Earth. Approved. Begin preparations immediately. I want to resolve this matter quickly. Yes, Grand Admiral. Drax smiled, revealing rows of sharp teeth. The humans will be under Imperial control within one standard week. Across space, hidden within a crater on Earth's moon, the situation looked very different. The lunar base Tranquility was bustling with activity, though nothing visible from orbit would suggest it was anything more than a small research outpost. Dr. Song Minhee stood before a group of 20 officers in a secure underground chamber. The room was designed to block any possible scans from Imperial ships. Behind her, a large screen showed detailed images of the Imperial fleet. Our probes worked perfectly, she said, pointing to the schematics. We have complete data on their ship designs, weapon systems, and communication protocols. Commander Yoon Jinwoo raised his hand. And they have no idea we're monitoring them. None, replied Minhee. Their scanning technology only detects what they expect to find. They're not looking for our quantum entanglement sensors because they don't believe we have such technology. She changed the display to show a comparison between Imperial technology and human systems. The key difference is philosophical as much as technological, she continued. The Empire evolved from hive mind species. Look at their ship movements, their computer systems, even their weapon targeting algorithms. Everything is perfectly synchronized, hierarchical, and predictable. Captain Cho leaned forward. And that's a weakness. Exactly, Minhee said with enthusiasm. We humans evolved as adaptable individuals, embracing chaos and unpredictability. Our technology reflects this fundamental difference. She touched the screen, showing two different navigation systems side by side. Their ships follow precise mathematical patterns. Our new quantum uncertainty drives deliberately incorporate randomness. They literally cannot predict where our ships will be from one moment to the next, because even we don't know until it happens. Commander Yoon Jinwoo nodded thoughtfully. So our apparent weaknesses are actually strengths. The technology they consider primitive is just a cover. Exactly, Minhee smiled. Their systems can't comprehend our quantum uncertainty drives or our adaptive AI. They're looking for patterns where we deliberately create none. She moved to another display, showing the hidden human fleet behind the moon. These ships looked nothing like the ones the Empire had scanned. They were smaller, with strange geometric shapes that seemed to shift slightly even on the display. Our true fleet remains undetected. The Chaos-class ships are powered down but ready. Each one can outmaneuver their entire fleet, and our emergency intelligence systems adapt continuously to changing conditions. General Park, who had been silent until now, finally spoke. And you're certain their technology is vulnerable to our chaos algorithms? Minhee nodded confidently. Their entire civilization is built on order and predictability. Their ships, weapons, even their tactical thinking, all follow established patterns. When faced with true randomness, their systems will struggle to adapt. Like a chess player suddenly forced to play a game where the rules change randomly, suggested Jinwoo. Precisely, said Minhee. We've been monitoring their communications. They're planning to send a small subjugation fleet, exactly as we predicted. They're completely underestimating us. General Park stood up. Then we proceed with Operation Chaos. When they move to attack, we'll let them fire first at our decoy ships. Then we'll show them what humanity is truly capable of. As the meeting ended, Minhee remained behind, looking at the display of the Imperial fleet. For thousands of years, the Empire had conquered species across the galaxy, always following the same patterns, always expecting submission. They had never encountered a species that embraced unpredictability as its greatest strength. They have no idea what's coming, she whispered to herself. The Imperial subjugation fleet appeared in Earth's orbit exactly as scheduled. 12 massive warships arranged in a perfect diamond formation moved slowly toward Earth. Their crystalline hulls glowed with building energy as weapon systems charged in synchronized patterns. On Earth's main orbital defense station, Admiral Lee Hyunju watched calmly. They're right on time. Exactly as predicted. All according to their standard invasion protocol. General Kang agreed. They do love their routines. Below them, Earth appeared peaceful. Cities continued to function normally. There was no panic, no mass evacuations. The human leadership had decided against alarming the population. In orbit, Captain Ba Sunho sat in the command chair of the HSS Courage. 6 other human ships formed a loose defensive formation around Earth. To Imperial sensors, they appeared to be the same primitive vessels from first contact, small, lightly armed, and technologically inferior. "Imperial fleet is hailing us, Captain," reported Communications Officer Zhang. "Put them through," Sunho replied, his face calm. The screen flickered to life, showing an Imperial commander with dark blue scales and cold eyes. "I am Commander Zoltek of the Imperial Subjugation Force. Your species has rejected the generous offer of the Galactic Empire. However, we are merciful. Surrender now, and your population will be treated humanely." Sunho looked at the Imperial commander for a long moment. Then a small smile touched his lips. "We're going to show you how we do things downtown," he said, quoting an ancient Earth movie. Confusion flickered across the alien's face. "What does that mean?" "You'll find out soon enough." The Imperial commander's scales darkened with anger. "Your primitive attempts at bravado are pointless." He cut the transmission. On the Imperial command ship, Zoltek turned to his weapons officer. "Primitive creatures. Begin standard subjugation pattern. Target their lead vessels first." "Yes, Commander." Firing solution calculated. All ships synchronized for maximum impact. Across the Imperial fleet, weapon systems hummed with power, energy built to critical levels, and then released in a coordinated barrage. 12 beams of concentrated energy streaked across space toward the human ships. By all Imperial calculations, the first volley should have destroyed at least 4 human vessels. But when the energy beams reached their targets, the human ships weren't there. "What?" Zoltek shouted. "Where did they go?" On the Courage, Sunho had given the order moments before the Imperial attack. "All ships, activate chaos protocols." The 7 human vessels suddenly shifted in ways that defied normal physics. The quantum uncertainty drives engaged, making their movements genuinely unpredictable. Not merely random, truly uncertain, existing in multiple potential positions simultaneously until observed. Recalculating firing solutions, the Imperial weapons officer said, his fingers moving rapidly over his console. "Target lock established." The Imperial fleet fired again. And again, they missed. On the HSS Courage, the bridge crew worked with focused intensity. Unlike the perfectly coordinated Imperial ships, each human vessel operated independently, their systems designed to thrive in chaos rather than order. "They're following standard attack pattern YAMA-6, reported Tactical Officer Kim, "just as our simulations predicted." Sunho nodded. "Launch disruptor drones." From each human ship, dozens of tiny objects deployed. To Imperial scanners, they appeared to be simple debris or perhaps primitive missiles. The Empire's defenses ignored them, focusing instead on the larger threat of the human ships. This was a mistake. The tiny drones attached themselves to the hulls of the Imperial vessels. Once in place, they began their work, injecting randomized code directly into the Imperial systems. The effect was immediate and devastating. On the Imperial command ship, alarms blared. "Sir, our systems are being corrupted," shouted the technology officer. "Some kind of virus has penetrated our networks." "Impossible," Zoltek replied. "Our systems are impenetrable." But the evidence was all around them. Lights flickered. Weapon systems fired at random or not at all. Navigation failed, causing 2 Imperial ships to nearly collide. "Their technology makes no sense," the Imperial science officer reported. "It's as if their ships exist in multiple states simultaneously. Our targeting computers cannot establish lock." Meanwhile, the human ships began their counterattack. They fired weapons that the Empire had not detected in their initial scans, weapons that operated on principles the Imperial scientists didn't understand. The first Imperial ship lost power completely as quantum disruptors shut down its main systems. A second began spinning out of control when its navigation systems failed. A third fired upon one of its own fleet members when its targeting systems were corrupted. Commander Zoltek watched in horror as his perfect formation dissolved into chaos. 3 ships were already completely disabled. The others were in disarray, their systems failing in unpredictable ways. "Retreat," he ordered finally. "All functional vessels, emergency withdrawal." The remaining Imperial ships struggled to coordinate their retreat. Without their usual perfect synchronization, they bumped into each other, fired engines at irregular intervals, and generally behaved like a group of panicked animals rather than the galaxy's most feared military force. On the bridge of the HSS Courage, Sun Ho watched the Imperial retreat with satisfaction. Not a single human ship had been hit. Not one human life had been lost. "The enemy is withdrawing, Captain," reported Lieutenant Park. "Should we pursue?" "Negative," Sun Ho replied. "Let them go. They need to report their failure to their superiors." He stood up from his command chair and looked around at his crew. "Well done, everyone. Phase 1 complete." As the Imperial ships limped away, Earth Command erupted in controlled celebration. For the first time in 15,000 years, the Galactic Empire had failed to subjugate a new species on their first attempt. Admiral Hyunju turned to General Kang. "Now comes the hard part. They'll be back, and in much greater numbers." "Let them come," Kang replied with confidence. "The bigger their fleet, the more chaos we'll introduce into their perfect system." Emperor Zorian sat on his crystalline throne aboard the massive Imperial capital ship, the Eternal Dominion. His scales had turned a deep red, a sign of extreme anger among his species. Around him, his advisors stood in perfect formation, each exactly 3 steps from the throne, arranged by rank. "Impossible," Zorian hissed, his clawed hand crushing the report he had just read. "In 10,000 years, no initial subjugation force has ever failed. How could primitive humans defeat our ships?" Commander Zoltek knelt before the Emperor, his head bowed so low it nearly touched the polished floor. His once bright scales had dulled with shame. "Your Imperial Magnificence," their technology was unexpected, Zoltek said, his voice trembling. "Their ships moved in ways that defied our targeting systems. Our weapons could not lock onto them." Zorian stood up suddenly, his tall frame towering over the kneeling commander. "Are you telling me that 12 of our finest warships were defeated by 7 primitive vessels, ships that our scans showed were using outdated technology?" "Yes, Emperor," Zoltek admitted. "They had technology hidden from our scans, and they used some kind of attack that corrupted our systems." Master Quailex, the Emperor's chief science advisor, stepped forward. Unlike the military officers, his scales were pale and his body thin. "Your Magnificence, I have analyzed the data from the failed subjugation. Preliminary reports suggest the humans use technology that deliberately incorporates randomness." "Randomness?" The Emperor's voice dripped with disbelief. "Yes, Emperor. Their ships appear to operate on quantum uncertainty principles. They exist in multiple potential states simultaneously. Our systems struggle to then improve our systems." Zorian snapped, cutting him off. "They are primitives. They have been in space for less than 2 centuries. We have ruled the stars for 15,000 years." Quailex backed away, bowing deeply. "Of course, Your Magnificence. We will adapt." The Emperor turned to his Grand Admiral. "Mobilize the 7th Fleet. All of it. I want these humans to understand true power. I want their planet to see our ships blotting out their sun. I want them broken and kneeling before me within 7 cycles." "It shall be done, Emperor," the Grand Admiral replied with a perfect bow. As the officers left to carry out their orders, Quailex remained behind, studying the data from the failed battle. What troubled him most wasn't the defeat itself, but what it suggested about human thinking. The Empire had conquered species that were physically stronger, more numerous, and even technologically advanced. But all of them thought in ways the Empire could understand and predict. These humans were different. They embraced chaos as a strategy. How do you defeat an enemy whose next move even they don't know? Meanwhile, aboard Earth's Lunar Command Center, Admiral Lee Hyunju watched real-time intelligence reports of the Imperial mobilization. They're bringing their 7th fleet, she told the gathered military leaders. Over 300 vessels, including their Planet Killer-class warships. General Kang nodded grimly. As expected, the Empire always responds to resistance with overwhelming force. It's worked for them for thousands of years. It won't work this time, Hanju replied confidently. Have our ambassadors made contact with the subjugated worlds? Yes, Admiral. Representatives from 17 species have agreed to secret meetings. In a secure chamber deep within the lunar base, Hyunju met with holographic projections of aliens from worlds conquered by the Empire. They were a diverse group. Some resembled insects, others were more plant-like, and a few appeared almost human despite their colorful skin or extra limbs. The Empire has ruled through fear for too long, Hyunju told them. We offer a different path. We offer alliance, not subjugation. Help us defeat the Empire, and all worlds will be free. A tall, thin alien with 6 arms spoke first. Your words are appealing, human, but the Empire is powerful. They have crushed every rebellion for 15 millennia. Because every rebellion followed patterns the Empire could predict. Hyunju explained, we fight differently. You saw what 7 of our ships did to their subjugation fleet. She showed them recordings of the battle. The aliens watched with growing interest as the human ships moved in ways that defied prediction, as the tiny drones corrupted Imperial systems. We can share this technology with you, Hyunju continued, but we need your help. We need information about Imperial fleet movements, defense codes, and communication protocols. One by one, the representatives agreed. Some offered immediate help, others promised to discuss it with their hidden resistance movements. All of them seemed to share the same emotion, hope, for the first time in generations. 6 days later, the Imperial 7th Fleet arrived in Earth's solar system. It was an awesome sight. 300 warships arranged in perfect geometric formations. The smallest was twice the size of Earth's largest vessel. The biggest, the Emperor's command ship, was like a floating city, visible from Earth's surface as a new star in the sky. In orbit around Earth, the human fleet waited, no longer hiding their true capabilities. 60 advanced ships stood ready. They were joined by vessels from 3 other species who had openly rebelled against the Empire after seeing the human success. Aboard the HS Freedom, Captain Choi Woojin addressed the combined fleet. Today, we face the full might of an empire that has ruled through fear and perfect order for 15,000 years, he said, his voice transmitted to every ship. They believe in perfect order, in ships that move in perfect formation, in weapons that fire in perfect synchronization. We believe in beautiful chaos, in the unpredictable, in the creative spark that makes each of us unique. He paused, looking at the massive Imperial fleet approaching on the view screen. They think they know how this battle will end. They've run the same program of conquest countless times. But today, we show them which is stronger, their perfect order or our beautiful chaos. As the Empire moved into firing positions, something unprecedented happened. Every human on Earth and throughout their colonies shared a collective laugh. It wasn't coordinated in the usual sense. It started in Australia and spread westward with the sunlight. Each person laughed in their own way. Some giggled, others roared with deep belly laughs. Children squealed with delight. This wave of laughter was detected by Imperial sensors and broadcast throughout their fleet. To the hive mind species that formed the Empire's core, the sound was deeply disturbing. It wasn't synchronized. It wasn't controlled. It was millions of individuals expressing joy in unique ways at the same moment. a concept so alien to them it caused actual physical discomfort. As the Imperial fleet hesitated in confusion, the human ships activated their quantum uncertainty drives and disappeared from Imperial sensors, only to reappear where they were least expected. The battle for Earth had begun. The space around Earth lit up with energy beams as the battle began. The Imperial fleet fired in perfect, synchronized waves. Their weapons created beautiful patterns of destruction, but hit nothing. Human ships moved in ways that made no sense. They appeared in one place, then suddenly existed somewhere else. They flew paths that seemed crazy, even suicidal, diving between Imperial vessels or spinning in tight spirals. But somehow it worked. Not a single human ship was destroyed in the first hour of fighting. "This is impossible," shouted Emperor Zorian from his command ship. "Where are they? Why can't we hit them?" The Imperial fleet tried to adapt. They changed formation, altered their firing patterns, and attempted to predict where the human ships would appear next. Nothing worked. Meanwhile, on the lunar base, Dr. Song Min-hee stood before a strange device. It looked simple, just a small silver box with a single button. But this device was the result of decades of secret research. "The quantum entanglement disruptors are ready, Admiral," she reported. Admiral Hanju's face appeared on the screen. "Are you certain this will work, Doctor?" "No," Min-hee admitted with a small smile. "And that's exactly why it should." Hyunju nodded. "Activate them." Min-hee pressed the button. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then, one by one, Imperial ships began to act strangely. These vessels, which had always moved with perfect coordination, suddenly behaved erratically. On the Imperial command ship, alarms blared from every station. "What's happening?" Emperor Zorian demanded. "Our systems are failing, Your Magnificence," reported a frantic officer. "But there's no attack we can detect. Nothing is damaged. The systems just aren't working correctly." The quantum entanglement disruptors didn't attack Imperial ships directly. Instead, they introduced true randomness into systems built on perfect predictability. Imperial computers couldn't handle true randomness. Their entire civilization was built on order and patterns. One Imperial ship fired its weapons at an ally. Another started spinning in circles. A third broadcast cooking recipes instead of military orders. The massive fleet, once so impressive in its perfect formation, now looked like a swarm of confused insects. From her command ship, Admiral Hyunju broadcast a message on all frequencies, reaching not just the Imperial fleet, but every world under Imperial control. "People of the galaxy, this is Admiral Lee Hyunju of Earth. For 15,000 years, the Empire has ruled through fear and force. Your empire is built on subjugation. We offer something better: cooperation between equals, each species contributing its unique strengths." She paused before continuing. "Look at your mighty fleet now. They cannot defeat us because they cannot understand us. Humans embrace chaos and uncertainty. We see beauty in difference, not in uniformity. Join us. Together, we can build a galaxy where all species are free." As Imperial ships continued to fail, something remarkable happened. On dozens of worlds across the galaxy, people who had lived under Imperial rule for generations saw their opportunity. Inspired by human tactics, they too began introducing unpredictability into their resistance. Imperial garrisons found their systems failing. Rebellion sprouted not as organized armies, which the Empire could easily crush, but as unpredictable acts of resistance that followed no pattern the Empire could counter. In his palace back on the Imperial homeworld, Emperor Zorian watched real-time reports of his empire crumbling. 300 systems in rebellion. 500. 800. For the first time in 15,000 years, the Eternal Empire faced not just defeat but collapse. "How is this possible?" he whispered to his advisors. "They are just one species, a young one." Master Quelex, his science advisor, finally spoke the truth. "They think differently, Emperor, they embrace what we fear: chaos, uncertainty, individuality. Our strength has always been our perfect order. But against true randomness, that order becomes our weakness. Zorian faced an impossible choice: adapt or fall. 6 months later, representatives from 50 species gathered in a grand hall on Earth. The room buzzed with dozens of languages, many beings seeing each other as equals for the first time. Admiral Kundu stood before them. Today, we create something new in the galaxy. Not an empire, but a cooperative. Each world governs itself. Each species contributes its unique strengths. Together, we explore the stars not to conquer, but to learn. One by one, representatives signed the charter establishing the Galactic Cooperative, a new interstellar organization based on mutual respect rather than dominance. Among those present was a surprising figure: Emperor Zorian himself, though he no longer used that title. He now called himself simply Representative Zorian of his homeworld. At the reception afterward, Captain Kim Tae-yun, now an ambassador, found himself face to face with former Imperial Commander Zoltek, whose defeat had started everything. Zoltek, now representing his world in the cooperative, studied Tae-yun with curious eyes. "I still don't entirely understand," he admitted. "You were so few, your ship so small, your species so young. How did you know your approach would work against the might of our empire?" Tae-yun smiled and offered his hand in the human gesture of friendship. After a moment's hesitation, Zoltek took it. "That's what makes it perfect," Tae-yun said. "We didn't know. We couldn't know. And that's exactly why it did work." Zoltek's scales shifted colors as he processed this idea. A strategy based on not knowing if your strategy will work. "It's so human," suggested Tae-yun. "Beautifully chaotic," Zoltek replied. As they looked out at the gathering, dozens of different species talking, laughing, and sharing ideas, Tae-yun felt a deep satisfaction. The galaxy had lived under the perfect order of the Empire for 15,000 years. Now it would experience the beautiful chaos of cooperation. The end.